We talk a lot on this channel about military life and what you need to know, but what you don't know is what is military life like after the uniform is gone. Today I talk with Kim Garst about what life is like after the military is over. Hi, and welcome to the Military Marketing Monday. My name is Desiree, and I'm here to help your business or brand learn more about military life so you can talk to me and my demographic better. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button below so you miss any more Military Marketing Monday videos or information that's going to help your brand stand out in a cluttered newsfeed. So today I had the awesome pleasure of talking with Kim Garst about what you need to know about military life after you're done, after the contract is over, after you put away that uniform. Kim is not only a proud Army wife, but she's also a small town Southern girl who has discovered a big world. She is an international best-selling author, international keynote speaker, and one of the world's most retweeted people among digital marketers, and is a highly sought-after marketing strategist. Kim is also internationally recognized as a thought leader in the social media space. Forbes actually named her one of the top 10 social media power influencers. She's worked with everybody from Microsoft, IBM, and MasterCard, and is sought out by hundreds of influential business leaders in digital and social media business to develop strategies online for their business. I knew she'd be the perfect person for us to talk to today because not only does she understand exactly what you guys are going through from a marketing standpoint, but as a former military spouse herself, she is going to be a wealth of knowledge to help us learn more about what life is like after the uniform is gone. So welcome to the show, Kim. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to dive right in with my questions. Tell me, what was life like for you as an active duty spouse during those active duty years?
Pretty much a solo lifestyle because he was always pretty much throughout his military career, he was in the special ops community. So he was gone, most weeks, sometimes weeks at a time, or even months at a time. I think on average, we added it up one time and it was like, almost like 250 some days a year out, he was on the road. So it was a constant, you just figured it out. I mean, I never even questioned it. It was his choice. I wanted to support that choice, and you just did it. It was just it was just what was. I never really even thought about it until something broke. And then I have to admit, I did give him down the road a little bit.
What is your most vivid memory from military life?
I have to say, you asked that question in advance, and so I was thinking to myself, what do I really, looking back on it, what do I really think about? And immediately, all the things that ran through my head were all the bad stuff. I think because they're tied to your emotions more, maybe. Helicopter crashes. Just losing people. I think that was the toughest part for me, and I immediately thought of those things when you had said that, asked that question. I think the toughest day for me in the military was one time. I woke up one morning and it was all over the news, and of course I watched the news religiously, even when I was a paralegal. And my husband was stationed over, he wasn't stationed. They just went, he would deploy and, get this strange call and, you knew better than to ask, when are they coming home? So I would just watch, CNN was really the only news channel at the time. So I would watch the news and see where he was, that was kind of my strategy. But one time I woke up and he was a helicopter pilot at that point in time. I flew one Chinooks for the 160th, and the news was reporting that a Chinook had been shot down, and I knew based off of the photo that it was because their helicopters had the probe on the front. And none of the other helicopters and the other units in the military, in the Army that flew that helicopter did not have that probe. So when they showed the helicopter, I was like, oh my gosh, that's us. That's, and of course, it didn't take long for the word to get out. And my husband was the company commander at the time. So my house became the connection point. Come on over when, because we didn't know anything and we were all like totally freaked out. And I mean, we knew it was us, but who was it, and so everybody started coming over, and my mom and my sister just happened to be in town at that time. And so it was a long, hard day before, we knew what was going on and who had been impacted. And, I knew people that worked at the unit. So one of them had come to me during the course of the day, and he said, listen, I've heard he's alive, but he's injured. And I'm like, okay, I can deal with that. Turns out he was supposed to be the air mission commander on that helicopter, and literally walking to the aircraft that night, another guy who comes up and said, hey, why don't you let me take this? So because his name was on the roster, they thought he was the one that had actually been injured. It actually turned out to be the other guy that had taken his place that night. So it was the most bizarre thing ever. But I think that is probably my worst day, and it's obviously tied to the military. So that's the bad. I hate that to answer your question. Is it the bad or the good? I think it's the bad.
Kim, that is so intense. I know from personal experience that those blackout days are the absolute worst. Not being able to reach your spouse is a nightmare, and I can't imagine going through what you went through. That sounds so scary. It must have been actually really hard too, because you were getting your information so much slower than how we get that nowadays.
They do a much better job these days than they used to. I know, like, my husband was in Delta for a while, and they were probably the worst. You didn't get any information unless they showed up on your doorstep, and that was hard.
How has life been different post-military life for you and for your husband?
Well, I no longer have to watch the news to figure out where he's at. That's good. But it's almost a surreal experience. It's almost like it never happened, because life just goes back to, you hate to say normal, but normal. And you're like, did that, it happened because you went through it. And of course, we're still very intricately tied to the community, because we still, we have obviously a ton of relationships that we formed over the years. And because a lot of military guys they come out of the military and then they go into supporting, defense work, or, other types of jobs, you run into people all the time that you knew. And that's been amazing. And so the relationships, I think sometimes when guys go through intense things together, the bond is so tight, so it's like us girls having a great girlfriend, right? And it doesn't matter if you've seen them in 5 years or you see them, the next day. There's that, you just pick up where you left off. And so I see a lot of that with the relationships that my husband had and still has. So it's an incredible. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I think the relationships and the experience of it, even the bad ones, were just, they shaped everything else our entire life. Truly our entire life.
How has your career been affected from going from active duty life to retired military life?
Well, when we first got married, I was working as a paralegal and trying to finish my school. So that actually happened, and literally going to night school. We were both going to night school at the same time. And just had been accepted to law school. I thought, well, how am I going to manage all this? And we found out that we were pregnant with my first son. And the law firm that I worked for had just hired a female attorney. And I saw the workload that they dumped on her. I mean, most days she was in there like at 4 a.m. and she'd go home, take a shower, and come back, and I'd be like, man, how am I going to do that with a baby? And so, and plus, once he arrived, life totally shifted. So the moment that they laid him in my arms, I was like, okay, he is way more important than, my ego, my desire to be one. I was the first one in my family to get a college degree. And, I was very invested in, trying to become an attorney and blah, blah, blah. So, like I said, life shifted and I haven't looked back. That said, we quickly learned that we can go from two incomes to one and really survive. It took, it was tough. And most military families get that because most families are living paycheck to paycheck and in some cases borrowing on the next paycheck. Been there, done that. Back in the day, you could do that. We called it bogus check day, where you could go a couple of days ahead of payday to the PX and cash a check, and it wouldn't get back to the bank before you got paid. So we would live literally paycheck to paycheck, and then, like I say, borrow in advance of the paycheck sometimes. So I started trying to figure out what I could do from home. And that has spawned everything else that came from that. And the beautiful part for me was then I had a business that I could take anywhere. As long as I had a computer, I could take that business anywhere. That said, because he was in the special ops community, we were in certain places for long periods of time. We were, like our last duty station was Fort Campbell, and we were there for 8 years. So so we didn't really have the traditional move every 2 to 3 years that a lot of military families have.
What sort of veteran activities do you and your husband participate in now that you are no longer an active duty family?
Well, we're very supportive of the military. And I would say organizational wise that we are really we don't go to and participate in certain events that are hosted by certain types of military organizations. But like I say, my husband's still very connected to that community, and we do a lot of things that support wounded warriors, for example. My husband gets very emotional about that, and I think a lot of people have got to a place where they're very supportive, thankfully, of our military. And we have a son that's still in the military. So we, like I say, we are very much still connected to that community, but I wouldn't say we go to balls or, things like that anymore.
Besides doing the full 20 and being older, what is it that businesses and marketers need to know about the veteran demographic?
Well, I think, and this is true not just for the veteran demographic, but any demographic that you're trying to serve, you got to get them. And I think it's very important to understand the challenges because they are unique. They are different than, someone who just I call it a regular ideal client. If you are a veteran or a military spouse or you're active duty, you have challenges and problems and concerns that, an average person probably doesn't have. And I think it's very important that you understand that, especially if you've never lived it. If you've never been down that road and you don't understand the challenges, then you need to talk to people and get where they're coming from and, understand that, if you're a spouse, for example, a lot of times the entire load is on you. And especially when the spouse is away. So, all of those are things that I think you just, like I say, if you're trying to market to those people or you're trying to serve those people or you're trying to love up those people, then you really need to get that they need extra love up.
Any final thoughts, Kim?
Well, I just would like to say that I know lots of times that the military service member themselves gets a thank you for their service. But I just would like to say that it's not just the military active duty person that needs support, that needs thanks, because there is a spouse at home who is living a a life that seems very isolated sometimes. They think their husband's out there, doing amazing things in amazing places, and they're home with the kids, and things are breaking, and you're alone. There's a ton of things that go into being a military spouse. And most military spouses don't get the recognition, in my opinion, that they deserve, and they don't get the support and the honor of what that entails. So I just like to say to those military wives or husbands, if you are a spouse, thank you. Thank you for all you do. You are, I get it because I was that person. And I just think that sometimes you don't get the kudos that you deserve.
That's so true, Kim. Thank you so much for saying that, especially since you've been there, so you know the struggle. It is so hard to stand behind your active duty spouse and just keep that front and keep things going, and it really is a struggle sometimes, so it's really important for us to hear that. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today, Kim. I really, truly appreciate it, and I hope that all you business owners and marketers got a lot of information from this video. If you just want more about what veteran life is like, you're going to watch this video right here with John Lee Dumas, where he talks about what you need to know about veteran entrepreneurs. And if you want a great example of someone who is just crushing it with military life, you're going to watch this video right here, where we talk about Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Keyleth O'Wright, and how he is doing on social media and what you can be learning from him. And like we say in military life, it is never goodbye, it is see you soon. So until next time, I will see you soon.